Hello, and welcome to the Lore of Braunhaven. Today we're going to be closing out our exploration of the Dwarven city of Zolotoheim, starting with the Highborn quarter, known as Uchel and Anedig quarter. It is surrounds the castle Ston and is mostly wealthy homes owned by, of course, the nobility and guild masters of the city. Clan heads will live in the Highborn quarter, and most of these houses are going to be quite opulent. They're going to be large Art Deco style homes, clearly owned by the rich and powerful. Some of these manors are small fortresses in their own right, but unlike other cities, there isn't actually any stipulation on who can live here. If you have the money and and you're a dwarf or a gnome that can afford property here, there is nothing that will prevent you from doing that. The dwarves don't have any kind of they don't put on airs about who can live in the rich quarter. Peppering throughout this region are numerous high-end, high-scale boutiques and shops that would cater to the wealthy. Furriers, tailors, jewelers, even some smiths all sell their goods here. And so you can expect to likely pay a 25% higher than list price in this region as well. All of the goods that are sold here are going to be top-notch, high-end items. Perhaps not high-end in their usefulness, but they're going to be higher quality and prettier to look at. Directly across from the Grand Market, moving to the southeast, you will find the Brewers and Distillers quarter. Now, this is a pretty packed region. There are the thing that really sets dwarves apart is their absolute love for beer, ale, and whiskeys. And so there are a number of breweries, and it is nearly impossible to not see them because of the large copper vats that are a part of each brewery. They're huge, and there is such a variety of different beers and ales available that it can almost be to the point of confusion on what to actually order. The dwarves mostly prefer a darker, heartier ale or beer, and high gravity lagers are a common staple of varying degrees of quality, of course, as there are so many of them, and many of these are made with cave wheat and hops and things of that nature that are grown in the underground farmsteads across Zolotoheim. The other buildings are mostly going to be distilleries, and these are run by the Guild of Brewers and Distillers, and they have passed a law that no dwarven whiskey that is made in these distilleries can be younger than 50 years. And 50-year aged dwarven whiskey is basically considered bottom shelf in Zolotoheim. And of course, dwarves having the long lifespans that they do, 50 years really isn't that long when you're considering a whiskey. And so the law states that a 50-year minimum is on any of these whiskeys, and you'll find a plentiful supply. A lot of them are going to be a lot of bottles that you would be able to purchase are going to be between 100 and 150 years aged, and fine whiskeys may be aged upwards of 200 years, and they can be worth, they'll sell for hundreds of Ellsworths per bottle. Of course, none of these breweries and distilleries would be much without taverns and tap rooms to serve their fare. And so you will find a number of different taverns throughout the area. In fact, each distillery and each brewery itself has its own tap room, tasting room, small taverns that will offer a variety of different foods along with flights of the drinks. And so this is a fairly lively area, and many of the ales, beers, and whiskeys that are brewed here, not only do they supply all of the taverns and inns across Zolotoheim, but many of these are actually shipped out of Zolotoheim to the surface world, to the other peoples, especially in the Braunhaven region. Some of the whiskeys make it all the way across the vast reaches to Erebachia. Some of them may even be loaded onto boats and sold in Orentis across the Dragon Sea. So this is a big trade market for Zolotoheim, probably second only to their trade in precious ores and gems. Then we travel down to the southeast for the final quarter, and this is what is known as the Lake Quarter. The Lake Quarter is not a terribly pleasant place for most people. It is going to have a stench of fish and vinegar. This is due to the massive number of canneries that sit along the eastern shore of Lake Braskus. And these canneries operate. They bring in fish from the lake, and they salt them and pickle them with vinegar, and then put them into tins, literally made of tin. And these are used as or sold as rations, or perhaps a food staple that you would keep in your kitchen, something that would be quick to add to a soup or a stew. The entire quarter, of course, because of all of these canneries, it just reeks of fish and vinegar, and it can be overwhelming for most people. You'll get used to it after a while, but this part of the cavern is generally unpleasant for outsiders. Another part of the lake quarter is that there are a number of guides, and they will offer not only fishing excursions out into Lake Braskus, but also there are some of these guides that will offer whitewater river trips through the underground river, and which can be perilous. If you don't have a guide, you are more likely to end up drowning or lost forever deep underground inside the mountain by going down this river than anything else. But there are guides that know the river well, and there are there are other towns and cities in the underworld that are sit along this river, and these guides know how to navigate the tributaries and locks that go into some of these towns and cities. So if you want to sell merchandise downriver to the underworld, this is of course another way of doing that. Generally, it can be quicker, but it is far more dangerous than taking the underground route via the East Gate through the mines. So it's not frequently used by very many people. That, and the fact that because these tributaries off of this underground river can be so small, it's near impossible to get a large barge through there. And so the amount of equipment or merchandise that you would be able to transport and sell is going to be limited by the size of your boat, or you're going to have multiple boats. So that can of course accrue a cost, because then you're going to also need multiple guides in case that the caravan of boats gets separated on the river. It is not the most common route, but there are some that do still actually use it, especially if they're looking to get into the underworld quickly and avoid any entanglements with a lot of the races that are down there. So that is Zolotoheim in a whole. Next week, we will be discussing some of the lesser known locations in the Skelos Mountains that one might run across. We won't be going over all of them because I would like to leave some of that up to chance for referees that are running adventures in the Skelos Mountains. And so you should be able to surprise your players. But there will be discussion of a wood elf village that is found in the mountains. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time on the Lore of Braunhaven.